Well, in international news, the U.S. has no plans to give in to Russian demands on NATO and the West's role in Ukraine. In written responses delivered to the Russians, the U.S. and NATO held firm to the alliance's open-door policy for membership, rejecting a demand to permanently ban Ukraine from joining, and said allied deployments of troops and military equipment in Eastern Europe are non-negotiable. Now, there was no immediate response from Russia, but Russian officials have warned that Moscow would quickly take retaliatory measures if the U.S. and its allies reject its demands. Now, Prime Minister Trudeau says Canada is planning on extending its training operations in Ukraine for additional 3 years and is immediately sending an additional 60 armed forces personnel to the country. So to get more
with rising tensions and unwarranted Russian aggression, Canada will be there to provide ongoing support to Ukraine so that it can defend itself. Let there be no mistake that Canada, alongside all of our democratic allies, stands strong for Ukraine. And everything we do is motivated by our pursuit of de-escalation and a diplomatic solution.
Okay, joining us live with his thoughts on these escalating tensions for the second time in 2 days is former Conservative Defense Minister Peter Mackay. Thanks again for being back here this morning. Appreciate your time. So a lot's changed in the last couple of days. Canada, though, still refusing to send lethal weapons at this point. What do you make, though, of the additional troops and financing and potential intelligence sharing here?
Well, it all helps. And I think Canada, historically has been a strong supporter of Ukraine, the first to recognize independence and a large diaspora here in Canada. So there is some expectation and some necessity that Canada lean in and provide this type of support. But it isn't what Ukraine has asked for. They appreciate it. They're certainly grateful, but it won't assist them in their primary task, which is to dissuade Russia from crossing its border, as they did in Crimea in 2014. So there's precedent here. We know that Russia wants to destabilize the West. They want to continue to menace NATO. They want to keep countries that were formerly part of the Soviet Union in their orbit of influence. So other countries like Belarus and Georgia fall into that category. But this invasion, if you will, is only going to be deterred with strength, and that means having more than but possibly sanctions as well.
So can you explain then, as someone who's been in the role where you're sort of, part of the decision-making tree and, a very senior position here, why then Canada would be so hesitant to even think about, it seems, adding lethal weapons to the mix when Ukraine has asked for it and other, NATO allies are contributing that? Why is Canada being so almost cagey about it?
Well, I think it's part of the nature and the philosophy of the government itself, because frankly, if Russia is going to, retaliate, whether we've provided defensive or offensive weapons, I think they're not going to parse that. They're going to see us as part of a bloc of countries who are choosing the side of Ukraine, which we clearly are. What could we give them is part of the question and the equation, Nick. I mean, we have main battle tanks, Leopard 2 battle tanks. We have long-range artillery. We have light and heavy armored vehicles that could support them, sniper rifles, other type of equipment that they're looking for, night vision goggles. It's all expensive. It's all in the arsenal of the Canadian Armed Forces. But you're right. The word is incremental in terms of Canada's support. And they're turning to the United States to do the heavy lifting, as we have on so many occasions. But I do believe that the support of NATO's position to not give an inch and say, we're not going to allow you, Russia, to determine a sovereign decision of Ukraine, whether to join NATO or the European Union or any other sovereign decision. That is absolutely where Canada should be, and we should be certainly forthright in supporting, in any way that we can, Ukraine, to try to dissuade this invasion, to try to prevent what will be a very, very ugly and bloody conflict if they cross that border.
Right, and so effectively the line has been drawn in the sand. The line effectively is the the border line, the border territory there. But Russia doesn't seem to be sort of too put off by this. Adding more troops, playing more war games. Sort of effectively working with Belarus to sort of do more about this. So with Russia effectively kind of paying no attention, at least seems outwardly, to this. How concerning is that to you? You know, we, the allies, have said, we'll let Ukraine join if they want to. We're not messing around. We're not letting you call the shots. So how do you assess that dynamic?
Well, two observations. Vladimir Putin is a bully and a dictator. And, we know that bullies do try to bluff. And I think there is a lot of bluff and bluster. These war games, as you mentioned, live fire exercises now off the coast of Ireland. What they have done in the past is lean forward in hopes that the West will blink. And so a punch in the nose is the only way to deal with a bully. The other reality when it comes to Russia is they're a paper tiger. I mean, California has a larger, more robust economy than Russia. John McCain famously described them as a mafia-run gas station masquerading as a country. If sanctions were to kick in, if Europeans, and most notably Germany, were to stop taking Russian gas, this would cripple their economy and would be far more effective than any military retaliation or action, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we'll watch and see what happens. Of course, the talks are still open, but we'll see what happens on both sides. Peter Mackay, thanks so much again for joining us here on CB24 Breakfast. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure, Nick.